And we're back once again, only on it's Last Call. Last Call of the Alcohol, only on the lastcallpodcast.com. And join me here on location. Well, there's another SEC coach bit the bullet. That's right. If you don't know, now you know. Hugh Freeze is gone. Well, I need to bring in a guy who knows everything about Auburn football. That's why he's part of the Auburn Wire 96.9 The Legend. He's going to break down everything and more with a bag of chips. I give you it is once again Auburn insider football analyst extraordinaire. I give you it's Phillip Jordan. So Phillip, if you see here on the screen, yes, Hugh Freeze is no longer with us as a football coach. How did it get to this point? How did a guy who the boosters were pushing, they wanted this guy. This was going to be their guy, an insider. How did it get so bad over 3 years? They went, yeah, you got to go. We don't care. You are fired.
It was basically, it's got to be. It's just the offense. The offense never clicked, and it's almost 3 years there at Auburn. I mean, that's why he was brought in for, was because he was an offensive guru. I mean, I think it all comes down to. I mean, he did a good job recruiting, but the on the field product offensively was not good. I mean, the defense is great. DJ Durkin did a great job with the defense. Auburn is one of 3 teams in the country that's hasn't allowed more than 24 points in a game. The other two are Indiana and Ohio State. But yeah, the offense has just been bad. And then finding a quarterback, going into portal, Peyton Thorne the first 2 years, and then coming back with Peyton Thorne in year 2 was a mistake when he probably could have got into sweepstakes for maybe a guy like a Cam Ward or somebody of that level, much better than Peyton Thorne. And then bringing in Jackson Arnold once again, he missed a quarterback when maybe he had chances for some other portal quarterbacks. I think his offense is a little bit outdated. And I've just seen some stuff people talk about this that you have these offensive meetings with Nick's, the guy that's going to be calling the plays for DJ Durkin or Ken Austin, the quarterbacks coach. But they're the ones in the meetings with the offensive players, but Hugh Freeze is not. But on Saturdays, Hugh Freeze is calling the plays. So that's I think another thing. But it all boils down to the offense was not working. It was bad, and you got to make a change there because even if you brought Hugh Freeze back next year and you say, okay, you have to go get an offense coordinator, what value does Hugh Freeze bring on Saturdays to the team? DJ Durkin's got the defense. Your new offensive coordinator's got the offense. So, but in a long way of saying, it's just the lack of offense, and really the offense has gotten worse each year with Hugh Freeze.
The running joke is Hugh Freeze came to Auburn for the golf, that he was too busy sometimes playing golf on Fridays and Saturdays. He's showing up to the game time. I get it. Everybody now, if you read CBS Sports or ESPN or SI.com, Auburn's now giving spin. Eventually, he'll give his spin, and but on a safe note, like how badly did he butcher the transfer portal, and did he have the work ethic it takes nowadays to coach in Auburn when it's a 365 day job. You are always either recruiting, hustling, scouting, networking, doing all this stuff, and it's not a job for those of the faint of heart.
Yeah, and I've seen that a little bit. Was how hard of a worker was Hugh Freeze? To me, he did good in the transfer portal. I mean, Eric Singleton comes in; he was the number one transfer wide receiver coming in. And the year before that, too, with Keandre Lambert Smith, he was the top receiver in the portal. So he's done well in the portal. It's just quarterback. That's where he has failed. This team and in coaching and developing a quarterback. I mean, a lot of people he came in looked at as a quarterback guru because what he had done with Malik Willis at Liberty, who was an Auburn cast off under Gus Malzahn, and then Chad Kelly and Bo Wallace had played well. Look, these aren't quarterbacks that lit it up or are lighting it up in the NFL, but he was also known as a wide receivers guy. So I think overall he did well with the portal. I'll say this: Auburn is actually in a better spot now than they were when he got there. Brian Harsin completely destroyed the talent level of Auburn. Even Hugh Freeze said it when he got there. Said this did not look like the talent level of an SEC roster. And Hugh Freeze did flip that. I mean, the recruiting was good. The transfer portal stuff was good. It just came to game day and how he with the offense, the play calling. I mean, and there was also times too, you're watching the game. Jeremiah Cobb is carrying them down the field in the run game, and then you get inside the 20 or the 10, and you want to throw it 3 straight times. So to me, and the only failure Hugh Freeze had when it comes to the transfer portal is again quarterback. That is again, I'll say, his biggest failure, and also just not having an offensive coordinator call the plays on Saturdays. That's another failure.
We'll get to the quarterback in a second, but the offensive play call. I mean, I get it, but he called plays before. So again, should there be blame that he brought all these peeps? I mean, it's sort of like Bill Belichick, and I know that DJ Dirk has done a great job, but the running joke is with a lot of these older coaches, they don't want guys who are going to challenge them. They want yes men. They want people they're happy with. Is that also what killed Hugh Freeze? That he didn't bring a lot of guys who are going to push him, maybe in terms of changing the offense, updating it, doing different things. That he just wanted yes people to tell him yes, we'll do this, this will do this, and never push back.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing you got with Nick's at offensive coordinator because he worked under him at Ole Miss, which he was under Lane at Ole Miss too. So I think the thinking was with him, he was going to come actually call plays. And I know, and Ken Austin is another guy that has worked under Hugh Freeze before. So especially, I think on the offense side of the ball, there was a lot of people that Hugh Freeze had worked with before. I mean, after 1 year, Carnell Cadillac Williams was no longer there at running backs coach; he was going to the Raiders. There's been some speculation maybe Hugh Freeze didn't really want him there, or maybe Cadillac did want to go and try the NFL, do that at running back coach position. I know there was talk about him bringing in an all-star staff when he first got there, and I don't think he really did. I think it's a lot of people he was familiar with. And, again, you said DJ Durkin. That's not one of his guys. DJ came in when Jimbo Fisher got fired at A&M, and then DJ Durkin needed a place to land. Ron Montgomery was the offensive coordinator. Hugh Freeze's first year there, that didn't work, and he was gone and with the offense coordinator for the Birmingham Stallions in the UFL, and he's somewhere now in college football. I can't off the top of my head think where he's at now, but yeah. So I think there was a little bit of that where it's Hugh Freeze's offense. I'll say this: when he was at Ole Miss, I think he worked as the play caller and as the quote unquote de facto offensive coordinator. It was just a different time. I think there's just so much for a head coach to have to worry about now with transfer portal, NIL, recruiting high school players, all the other stuff. I just think it's very hard at big time at the Power 4 level for your head coach to also be your coordinator. And I just think that's where Hugh Freeze ran into it. If he had the time, I think, to dedicate during the week and being in those meetings, being in those rooms with his quarterbacks, his offense players, his offensive staff, I think it could have been a little bit better. But I just think that like I feel like I keep kind of going back to the same thing. That was a big problem, and it was just the offense seems outdated to a degree. It really is very familiar to me, similar to me, of what you saw with Gus Malzahn toward the end of his career there at Auburn, where it felt like his offense was just a little bit outdated. People's kind of figured it out, and I don't know how much of the RPO game really works, but you got to have the right quarterback for that. So a lot of stuff there, but yeah, I think there were some yes men. There was some of that in there, but also just again, I think just his to a degree, I believe maybe a level of arrogance that he just thought he was the smartest person there and he could figure it out with the play calling.
Was there any way that he could have saved his job? Like if because we heard it in an LSU that if Brian Kelly had fired the offensive coordinator and he didn't get into a fight with the AD, there might have been a chance he comes back. Was there anything for Hugh Freeze that he could have done to save his job? Like if he had said, "Look, I'll hire a GM, I'll do this, just give me one more year." Was there anything, or from what you heard, was there just this was the final straw, having all this defensive talent and just blowing it this year?
I mean, beat Kentucky. I would say that for another week. I think it was headed toward this. Of course, the close losses this year, and again, um, Haiti kind of like better quarterback play, a better decision in the portal, but I don't think there's anything he could have done like on Sunday to save it because again, the offense is the reason why this team is losing games. I mean, they're in every game they're in. They have not been blown out any of these games. They've had an opportunity to be in them, but it's like okay, well, for example, Brian Kelly. Well, you want to fire an offense coordinator? That's pretty much you freeze. So they kind of took care of that. They fired the offense coordinator basically.
So let's talk about now the other elephant in the room. That is Jackson Darnold. Jackson Arnold. If I say Darnold, it's because everybody's going, darn Arnold. How did it get this bad? Like, why him? That's the other question people I'm thinking Auburn had to ask is, of all the quarterbacks you could have gone after, and Darian Mensah was there. You had Malik Murphy was there. Joey Aguirre was there. Jackson, Jackson Arnold was the guy they brought to the transfer portal to Auburn. Why? I mean, because I'm guessing even you want to know, like, why was Jackson Arnold the guy they thought was going to be a good quarterback when they saw him last year at Oklahoma, and Oklahoma basically ran him out of town?
Well, I'll say this about Jackson Arnold. He was in a bad situation at Oklahoma last year. The offensive line was horrible, and going in, his top 5 wide receivers were all out last year. He didn't have any help at all at Oklahoma, and I think Brett Venables put him in a bad spot last year. And he's talented. He has the physical tools to be good, and that was, I think, the whole thing with Hugh Freeze looked at. Look, he was a 5-star coming out of Texas, highly rated, all that stuff. So he probably said, okay, get him here, get his confidence back, because obviously he's going to be a quarterback where his confidence was not going to be there. I mean, even I remember going into the season during training camp and fall camp and all that, Hugh Freeze said they were trying to be easy on Jackson Arnold because they wanted the quarterback to feel good about himself after practice. So I think that was a big thing. Arnold getting his confidence back, and he showed against Baylor his ability as a runner, which we saw that last year for Oklahoma against Alabama. That was on display. The big thing with him, though, that his struggles, he just holds on to the ball this whole. I think he's so scared to throw an interception. It's actually a detriment. And then that we've seen that a lot with him this year, which we saw it also with Ashton Daniels in the game. But I think Hugh Freeze saw him as okay, and I believe he said this several times when people would ask him why Jackson Arnold or any question about Jackson Arnold. He said, "Well, he was a 5-star for a reason." So he just believed in that potential and that talent. But obviously, we've seen Oklahoma, he had some struggles, but the excuse was the receivers and offensive line wasn't good. Now you look at this now. He's got receivers at Auburn. He's got Cam Coleman. He's got Eric Singleton. He's got Malcolm Simmons. Receivers are there. The running backs are there. I don't think it's all on the offensive line. The many sacks Auburn's given up this year, I think it's on the quarterbacks holding on to it too long. But yeah, I think that's what Hugh Freeze saw. I've got a 5-star guy coming out of high school, someone that he could maybe fix and develop. But I think now we've seen that Hugh Freeze is not the guy you want trying to develop a quarterback.
So they've replaced him right now at quarterback. But what do you do with him going forward? I mean, does he transfer out? Does new coaching staff give him a chance? Because whoever takes over, he might look and go, well, it's tough for me to transfer because nobody might want me right now. It's now 2 schools I've flamed out of. Like, if you're Jackson Arnold, what is, I guess, your path to success? And is he a quarterback, or is it time to just make him a running back?
I went on another show on Sunday, and I made the point that I think Jackson Arnold should go to a group of 6 school, like a smaller college, and play quarterback, because I think he just needs to get out of the spotlight. At Oklahoma and Auburn, you're in the spotlight. He needs to go to a smaller school, maybe a smaller school in Texas or something. Go back closer to home, get better there. And the way portal is, you can pretty much transfer it in, every year. Go then maybe you can develop and go somewhere else. But I don't think if you're Auburn, whoever is the next head coach for them, I don't think you want Jackson Arnold there. Simple fact is because you want to do everything possible to keep freshman Deuce Knight on the roster. 5-star out of state Mississippi. That was a big get for Auburn. They flipped him from Notre Dame. He is the future of this program. That was what Hugh Freeze envisioned him to be. And whoever comes in as next head coach, you do not want the Jackson Arnold part hanging over because whoever knows, these coaches, they look, oh well, he's got a little experience. You don't want. I'm not saying you don't want Deuce Knight to have competition. You do want him to have some competition, but you also, if you're the new head coach coming in, that's a guy you do not want leaving, because I also believe you also don't want Cam Coleman leaving. But I think they need to politely kind of ask Jackson Arnold to enter the transfer portal, because I think that is going to be best for both sides.
Speaking of a transfer portal, you might be looking at Xavier Atkins, Robert
Mm-hmm.
Woodyard, Caleb Harris, Eric Singleton if he doesn't enter the draft, Jeremiah Cobb. Oh, by the way, Connor Lew, we have no idea what he's doing. Xavier Chaplin. How many of these guys transferred? Like Atkins to me is the wild card because some of these guys you mentioned, I mentioned they're from Alabama, so they might want to stay at home. Atkins is a Houston, Texas kid. What are the odds that he takes off and next thing you know, he's going to Texas or Texas A&M or even SMU, where they all have deep pockets. They all are programs are on the up and up, and he might look and go, I can win and get paid over there rather than a rebuild here in Auburn.
Well, I think a lot of that on the defensive side is going to depend on if the new head coach keeps DJ Durkin. I think DJ Durkin seems like a guy that wants to stay in Auburn. And so whoever comes in, if they want to keep him, and obviously too, you have that 5-day window now. They can't hit the portal until 5 days after the new coaches come in. So they have an opportunity to re-recruit this roster. And that's going to be the most important thing for whoever comes in is to re-recruit this roster because Auburn has a talented roster. If they could just go get the right quarterback, or if Deuce Knight stays and he is the guy that he's supposed to be, Auburn's got talent to compete. We've seen it this year. All these close games they've lost. They have talent to compete. Talent is not the issue with this team. It was just the leadership up top with Hugh Freeze. That was a big problem with this team. I do believe, and look, I don't have inside knowledge on this. This is just an opinion. I think Cam Coleman's going to be playing somewhere else next year. That's just my opinion. Xavier Atkins, he obviously has put a lot of good stuff on tape, and teams are going to be clamoring for him. But Auburn does have the resources, money wise, NIL wise, to keep these players. I believe that. Like a Jeremiah Cobb, you mentioned him, but I think that's going to be probably the number one task for whoever comes in next as head coach is to keep the talent here, and also maybe keep DJ Durkin because he kept Hugh Freeze employed for a little bit longer than maybe Hugh Freeze probably should have been.
How tough is that going to be right now, though? And we'll get to this in a second. When you look at the SEC, it might be musical chairs where you have several coaches leaving, several coaches for better jobs, several coaches, leaving for, let's say, lateral jobs just because they think, well, I can win and survive quicker at this place rather than that place. And how many people are even going to be leaving because they might get fired at the end of the year? Hint, hint, Kentucky. I was thinking about this. We could have 8 or 9 coaches, different coaching staffs in the SEC alone. So how tough would that be keeping all these transfers when it's going to be a mad dash, for basically keeping everybody. And you're still not sure if you might get that head coach by January 5th because a lot of these guys will probably still be coaching into January that you're targeting.
Yeah, and that's true. Um, and like a guy like Kirby Smart, he's a relentless recruiter. He's going to be coming after. Some of these guys, and who knows if Texas A&M, even though it's a different coach staff, they may be coming after Cam Coleman. So that's a tough. It's going to be tough. I'm not saying anybody can come in and it's going to be easy keeping these guys around. But again, that's just going to be the task for whoever comes in as the next head coach. It's just you're not going to retain the whole roster. Obviously, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen in a good situation. You're going to lose guys. And like I said, I'm still. We can come back and you hit me up if Cam Coleman is back at Auburn and say, Phillip, you were wrong on that one. But it's going to be tough. A short answer, it's going to be tough for whoever comes in because you have relentless recruiters just in the SEC alone, and teams from other conferences are going to be coming after it. Big Ten, Ohio State, teams like that, they're going to be coming after some of these Auburn players too.
I'll give 5 guys who I think are key to the team, and you can tell me if they stay or if they go. You already made your feelings on Cam Coleman. Connor Lew, does he stay or does he go?
I think Connor Lew will be back.
Xavier Atkins.
I think he will be with Auburn next year.
Jeremiah Cobb.
I would lean that he might be gone because I think they do have a freshman behind him, Omar Mabson, that whoever's going to come in is going to like because he's a hometown guy because he played at Auburn High and now he's playing for Auburn University. So I think he's a guy that will stay there. So I would lean. I'm kind of like 51% that Jeremiah Cobb might leave, but that would depend on who's the coach and who's offense coordinator too.
Last one, Xavier Chaplin.
I think he'll be gone. I think some of these offensive linemen, and he's been one of them that's made some. Now, I said earlier the sacks are not all on the offensive line. There's been a lot of offensive line penalties though, so I don't know. I think some of these offensive linemen won't be around next season. Not at Auburn.
So who's going to be the new head coach of Auburn? Because they tried going with an outsider, Bryson Harden, and that failed. And the boosters hated him, didn't want to support him. So after 2 years, he was gone. Then you hire the ultimate insider. You hire Hugh Freeze. Bad 3 years, and now he's gone. So who basically is going to be calling the shots? Is it the AD? Is it the boosters? Because right now, I'm guessing there's going to be a power struggle of the AD saying to the boosters, "Hey, f off, my turn now. We tried your way, failed miserably. I'm going back to mine." And I could bet the boosters go, no. We're not doing Bryson Harden 2.0. We still want to say so. Who's the shot caller here?
So I did see, as we're recording this, I did see the quote from John Cohen on Monday saying that he was asked kind of a similar question that you just asked me, and he says, "I am the committee." Now, no one that has followed Auburn or is a fan of Auburn believes that for a minute. Uh, there's a certain uh, well-to-do millionaire, billionaire, whatever in this state, yellow fella, Jimmy Rain, that may be involved in that. I don't know. I'm not saying he is, but just people who's followed Auburn kind of had doubts that with the board of trustees and kind of how that's going to work. Brian Harsin was just a bad fit for Auburn. He ran off all the talented players, and I have this on knowledge because I also cover high school football. I have many people tell me Brian Harsin, we got Auburn people like to call it the Boise boys. They didn't go out and recruit at all. The guys he brought in that were SEC, like a Cornell Williams who was on staff, they were the ones that went out and recruit. And that's another thing with Auburn. If you put an effort in recruiting, you're going to bring in players. Gus Malzahn did that. We saw Hugh Freeze do that. And Hugh Freeze, that was when you thought, hey, this should work. He fits everything they want. Hugh Freeze is, he's going to probably be a yes guy to a lot of the boosters. He's going to do everything he can, because this was his last shot. Hugh Freeze is a good guy, so he thought that was going to be the right one. For me, and I have posted this on social media, I have said this on my podcast, John Sumrall is the guy Auburn should go get. That he should be at the top of the list. I think Auburn now, you've gone 3 straight offensive players in Gus Malzahn, Brian Harsin, and Hugh Freeze. I think you now need to go to defense. I think Auburn is missing a toughness about them, and John Sumrall would bring that. And look, where I'm at in Alabama, Dothan, Alabama, I am an hour away from Troy. I saw what he did at Troy for 2 years, winning back-to-back Sun Belt titles. He has got a competitive Tulane team there in their conference. This is a guy that wins, and I just think he is the right guy for Auburn to come in and be that guy to take Auburn to the next step. And a lot of Auburn people, I'm not the biggest, even though I write and I've been following this team since I was a kid. I'm not the biggest Pat Dye person. I mean, he was a really good coach in the 80s, but I don't know. There's some things about Pat Dye just I'm not the biggest fan of. But anyways, his name's on the field. He's a great coach, Hall of Famer, all that stuff. A lot of people see Pat Dye in him, and I just think there'd be a certain toughness about Auburn if it's John Sumrall. But if it's not John Sumrall, I think another name you could go out there and get will be Eli Drinkwitz. Auburn should stay away from Jimbo Fisher, 100%. And can I go on a tangent on your show?
Yes, you can. You're allowed to curse if you want. You can even drop some F bombs if you want.
I don't do that, but I will say this. Jimbo Fisher is probably the most overrated coach. Okay, number 2. He's a better coach than Gene Chizik. I give him that. But outside of Gene Chizik, Jimbo Fisher is probably more overrated coaches to ever win a national championship. Now, I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but I will say this. I did this at one point when he was toward the end of his time at A&M. If you take away the 2 years at Florida State, he had Jameis Winston. He is an 8-4 football coach. He is average. That is all he is. He is not that great. And we talked about Hugh Freeze and maybe Gus Malzahn a little bit, not their offense not evolving. It's kind of being outdated. Jimbo Fisher's was as well. There was no motion. And I just don't think – I know some people have floated out there in some groups I'm in, hey, how about James Franklin? I don't think James Franklin you could bring in because while I do believe you could win, He struggled. He could not beat the elite teams in the Big Ten. And that's Ohio State, the Oregons of the world. Even, when Michigan was right, he couldn't beat them. There's 2 of those in the Big Ten. You've got several of those in the SEC. So basically, Auburn fans, you're telling me that when James Franklin shows up at Auburn, you're never beating Alabama and Georgia ever again, basically with him. So I feel like Jimbo Fisher and James Franklin, Jimbo Fisher more, that's a retread. That's somebody you're going by a name, a splash hire. It'll excite, I think, people nationally. Will say, oh, okay, that's a big name Auburn got. To me, John Sumrall's the guy. You've got to go get John Sumrall. Now, some people want to dip their toe in the Lane Kiffin bucket again. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that ship has sailed from a few years ago where he almost went to Auburn. But yeah, John Sumrall is the guy that Auburn should get. To me, it's not complicated. Go get John Sumrall.
Let's say Sumrall's taken. Can an outsider survive? Let's say, I forget the AD's name, but let's say he goes out and he announces the next Auburn head football coach, Matt Campbell, formerly of Iowa State. I spoke with Will Thomas about this, who covers from LSU, and he had said Brian Kelly was a failure from day one because he didn't fit the culture, didn't fit, the lingo. The locals didn't like him, and they weren't going to give him a chance. Is that the same problem that Auburn has? That you can't bring an outsider in, whether it's a Brian Newberry from Navy, Matt Campbell from Iowa State. Hell, I'll even throw, a wild one here. Spencer Torkelson from Boise State. You cannot bring somebody who's not a Southerner into Auburn because the locals, the boosters, and the Auburn faithful are going to look and go, carpetbagger, Yankee, go home. We don't want you here.
Well, they could never go to Boise again after Brian Harsin. That's a no. The worst head coach in Auburn football history. I had to throw that in there too. Worse than Hugh Freeze. As bad as it was Hugh Freeze, he was not worse than Brian Harsin. Matt Campbell. I think people are going to feel like that's another Brian Harsin coming in. You got to bring somebody in. I'm not saying they had to go to Auburn or anything like that. See, Eli Drinkwitz does check that. He has that because he was part of the staff when they won the national championship in 2010. He has been at Auburn. But no, you couldn't. I think you had to have somebody with some SEC or some Southern ties, which John Sumrall doesn't have SEC, but the fact that he was at Troy and the things he's doing at Tulane, he was an assistant at Ole Miss and Kentucky, so he does have that from an assistant standpoint. But no, you got to have somebody with SEC or Southern ties.
I'll throw another person out there because the greatest coach in SEC history was not a Southerner, and he didn't come from the SEC originally. That was Nick Saban. So let me ask you this: Lincoln Riley, would he be one of those? Or if you were Auburn, do you look and go, this guy can coach quarterbacks. He knows quarterbacks. God damn it, he can find and develop quarterbacks. We don't care you're not Southern. If you can bring a quarterback with, or you can whisper into Deuce Knight's ear, we will love you. We don't care. Like, is there an outsider that you and the boosters look at and go, yeah, I know we might not get him, but goddamn if we could. John Gruden, Lincoln Riley, come on down.
Lincoln Riley would be interesting. I don't think he'll even be on the list, but with him, you just have to tell him DJ Durkin's your defense coordinator, because that's one of my criticisms I've had Lincoln Riley. I mean, he's always going to have a good offense, and there's no worry about that. His defenses have not been good for the most part, both at Oklahoma and at USC. So if you had someone like Lincoln Riley, you bring in another offensive guru like that, you're going to have to tell him, if I'm John Cohen, I say, we'll hire you, but your defense coordinator is going to be DJ Durkin.
John Gruden.
I wouldn't touch that one. I'm sorry. It's just too. Let's make headlines. I'm sorry. I don't think I have doubts he could really adapt to the college game. And I know he said he's watched film, and I can't do a Gruden impersonation. But I feel like you're just asking for the same issues North Carolina's having with Bill Belichick.
The ultimate wild card. Joe Brady.
I feel like he's LSU. If he's come back to college, he's going back to LSU. But I feel like he's going to be an NFL head coach.
So here's the Here's, I guess, the doomsday scenario. John Summerall ends up in either LSU or Florida. Eli Drinkowitz ends up in either one of those two places, or he gets called up and goes to Penn State. What's plan C? I mean, is DJ Durkin then going to be elevated to head coach, or is he just too much of, well, a retread? Is there somebody out there that you're looking at that they might go, all right, look, we know you're not, a local yokel, but damn it, we'll take you. I mean, is there basically pull breaks, pull lever in case of emergency? Josh McDaniels, crap, hey, you know what? Is Les Miles still there? Like, what happens if Drinkowitz and Summerall are both off the table?
Glenn Schumann, the defense coordinator at Georgia, would be a name I would look after. I mean, a lot of Auburn people probably weren't happy with a coordinator, but that's one. And then you got Brent Key at Georgia Tech. I mean, I know that's his alma mater, and that's where he went to school. He loves Tech, but let's be honest, you can't win a championship at Tech. It's not going to happen. But Auburn has proven you can play for one and you can win one. So I think those are two names too that could be possibilities. And DJ Durkin, let's see what these next 3 weeks go. If those names fall off the board that I've mentioned, and let's say they upset Vanderbilt this week. I don't think they will, but let's just say then you go to your bye week, you beat Mercer. And look, I'm just going to say this: the Iron Bowl's in Auburn this year, and Jordan Hare has matched. Look, Auburn has not been blown out by anybody this year. The defense keeps them in games. I'm going to be intrigued to see how the offense looks this week with Hugh Freeze out of the way. So, but yeah, I don't think DJ Durkin is going to jump over those guys. If they can get Summerall or any of those guys I mentioned, they're going to get those. But if that doesn't work out, and DJ Durkin maybe goes 2-1, competitive in Iron Bowl, maybe they upset Alabama. I don't know. I think that could be a possibility. But if they go 1-2, they would need to upset either Vanderbilt or Alabama, I think, for DJ Durkin to get his name in there.
Final name that most people say he won't leave alma mater, but you never know. And Auburn has enough money. Clark Lee of Vanderbilt.
Okay, I have a take on Clark Lee. I want to know what he can do without Diego Pavia, because Vanderbilt was not winning a bunch of football games before he basically brought half the staff from New Mexico State and Diego Pavia to Vanderbilt. So I'm not saying Clark Lee's not a good coach. I think he is. But I'm also in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, are you winning these games because you just built this program and you just happened to bring those guys over? Or is it because you brought those guys over that you're now winning? I just wonder, can Clark Lee sustain that? You know what I mean? Like that. Can he win without Diego Pavia? And I have a question on that. I'm not saying he can, but I don't know if I don't know what he can do without him.
Well, let me throw a script back at you then. What could he do if he actually had money and it was easier to recruit and get transferred? Vanderbilt, they don't take just anybody. You got to meet some requirements. They don't have this big, NIL check what other schools do. So if I'm selling you on Clark Lee, how much do you look and go, hey, look, he's competitive the SEC and he has none of this stuff. Imagine what he'll do at Frit Auburn with, instilling, as you said, toughness, instilling discipline. And you're going to give him a large check. And oh, by the way, he discovered Diego Pavia. I mean, is it one of those things where all of a sudden, it's like Abraham Lincoln when he won the election? Yeah, well, I'm not everybody's first choice. I can always be your second.
It depends if he's bringing that staff with him, that offensive staff. Because again, I believe Clark Lee could, have a tough team defensively. Again, I think most coaches would be smart to say, hey, DJ Durkin knows what he's doing over there, defense coordinator. So that would be the thing for me. If they did go that route, Auburn, are you bringing? I'll be asking, are you bringing those guys? Are those guys coming with you? Jerry Kill and all them other guys that you got from New Mexico State, they coming with you? Because obviously, you also can see their offense change with those guys too as well. It's Diego Pavia is the one that is doing it at quarterback, but also bringing those guys over too as well. So that would be my biggest deal with him. Who's going to be your offense coordinator? For any coach, that's got to be the biggest thing, discussion part with that. Who's going to be the offense coordinator? Because they got to find a guy that's not got in his head where he has to be the play caller like Gus was, and then like Hugh Freeze was.
Unfortunately, none of this is going to happen until one guy decides to make up his mind. Is he staying? Is he going? Is he going to Big Ten? Is he going to the SEC? Is there a job, maybe even the Pac-10 that might open up? Maybe like an Ohio State that he might go, hey, I'll go there. That is Lane Kiffin. How quickly is this going to be like the most annoying friggin' college football search, knowing that everybody's going to be just sort of begging him, and he's just going to go, well, let me think about it until all the way maybe till January 5th.
Yeah, the thing is with him, Ole Miss is a team right now positioned to be in the playoff. So that's what you're going to have to wait on too if they make the playoff when that's going to run out. Look, Auburn tried. Auburn tried to get him when they hired Hugh Freeze and John Cohen and all them people said, well, Hugh Freeze was the first person we offered to. Okay, I believe that he was the first one you officially offered a job to, but everybody knew they wanted Lane Kiffin. And I haven't, again, this is kind of like I said with Cam Coleman. I don't have inside information. This is just an opinion just from stuff I've read and what I've seen people say. I think Lane Kiffin was going to Auburn and he changed his mind in the last minute. And honestly, I think had Auburn not fired Brian Harsin a month before the season ended, and that just been more of a quiet search, which you can't do with Lane. I know that. I think he would be the Auburn head coach right now. And I'll be honest, this is a little favoritism. Lane Kiffin's my favorite coach of college football. I absolutely love watching Ole Miss play. But for me, Auburn's not in. I don't think Auburn's going to be in the Lane Kiffin search or business this time around. But the Florida and LSU part of it, I think, is going to be interesting because Florida wants them. I believe LSU wants them. And Ole Miss is going to want to keep them. And
Penn State wants them probably also. Penn State's going, hey.
I know he's not I know he's not from the South or whatever, Lane and all that stuff, but he just feels like he's ingrained in the SEC.
Yeah, but as you said, though, there's only 2 teams in the Big Ten you got to worry about. There's a half dozen, 8 teams in the SEC you got to worry about the same much as Oregon and Ohio State. So as he keeps saying, it's not about money. This is not about money. I'm looking for the best fit. So is Penn State in some ways a better fit because he can look and go, no Texas A&M, no Alabama, no Tennessee, no Florida, no Ole Miss or LSU. Just 2 friggin' teams I got to worry about every year. But I might have more resources in Penn State. I can handle that.
Well, also, I think he's connected with the community, and that's what I say. I think his family, like his daughter, is why he stayed at Ole Miss and didn't go to Auburn. I think that's a big part of it, and I don't know. I just feel like he wants to win in the SEC. I mean, no offense to the Big Ten, but yeah, I just feel like but Ole Miss is going to offer him a big deal. So it's going to take if he leaves Ole Miss, it's going to take a lot of money to get him.
How much, though, is this going to hold up everybody else? Because John Summerall is going to wait on Florida and LSU and Penn State. So will Eli Drinkowitz. Then you have no idea what's going to happen with Tennessee. I mean, does he leave or not over there? I mean, does Josh Heupel decide, hey, Florida's better than Tennessee? It's easier to get a quarterback over there than here. I mean, as I said, this is going to be chaos. So for Auburn, how frustrating is it right now that this one frigging guy that said no to you a while back is going to hold everything up because until he decides, nobody else is going to decide.
Well, I'm going to say this. I think if Auburn offers John Summerall, he takes the job. From what I've read people say about the whole situation, I think the only other competitor Auburn's going to have for John Summerall potentially is going to be LSU because he's in the state. But he also was in the state of Alabama. And look, I believe it was a hard thing for him to leave Troy, but obviously you're going to do it. Tulane is higher up on the food chain than what Troy is, despite the success he had at Troy. So I think if you want John Summerall, the only competition you got to worry about is LSU. But yeah, Lane's going to hold up a lot of this stuff. I don't see Josh Heupel leaving Tennessee. And right now, I'd say this: I think Tennessee's a better job than Florida. I mean, Florida hasn't won in a while, and they ran off.
A great job, though. You don't have to win 12 games right off the bat. Hey, you get to 8 wins, and they start going, hey, we love you. You're our buddy. Thank you for getting us back to relevancy.
Well, Dan Mullen was winning 8 or 9 games a year, and they ran him off. So
yeah, but they learned their lesson now. It's like, yeah, we had Dave
I
Mullen, and then we
I
went
don't
back to.
know. I don't know. I don't know. I think Florida fans are expecting I think they expect to be at the level that Alabama's at and Georgia's at immediately. They expect to win because they also remember Urban Meyer played second, third year he won a national championship. So Florida fans are, I think, to a degree, going to be. I think they would be patient. If he won 8 or 9 games the first year, they would love it. But that's going to trigger. Okay, we got to go win a national championship. I think Josh Heupel should stay in Tennessee. They love him there. I wouldn't leave. So to me, I think it really comes down for Lane. It's either going to be stay at Ole Miss, Florida, maybe LSU. But outside of that, or look, Colin Cowherd, threw it out there about him in the NFL, which I think Lane would do great in the NFL.
Finally, Eli Drinkowitz. You've mentioned this about Clark Lee, like, oh, what does he want when when he doesn't have Diego Pavia? I throw a similar out to Eli Drinkowitz. What does he want when he doesn't have all these transfers from Georgia and other places, and he can't find a quarterback? So if you were Auburn, sell it to me here because there's probably going to be some boosters going, it's too Midwestern for us. It's not really a Southerner. He's a transplant. And God damn it, we had problems with Jackson Arnold, Rebus, and before that, Cam Cook were not great quarterbacks. So, great, we're getting one. We're basically getting the defensive version of Hugh Freeze. What are we doing here? So, sell me on Eli Drinkowitz because you seem to have some warm fuzzy feelings about him as Plan B.
Because Auburn will accept him because he will be viewed as one of them because he was there. He was there. Believe it was in 2010 as a I forget what his position was on the staff, but he was there. So he was at Auburn. He's been there before. So and Auburn loves their own. And I think so. If Eli Drinkwitz got named the head coach, there would be some people that kind of wondered. And I look at it with him. He was going 6-6 first couple of years. He has been winning 8 or 9 games consistently at Missouri. And when I look at that, that's consistency. He's been doing it with different players, different quarterbacks, and all that stuff. Obviously, there's a ceiling for Missouri. Winning 9 games is a ceiling. Maybe you can sneak into the playoff, but I think that's about it for them. You come to Auburn with what he's been able to do at Missouri, it's kind of how I feel about John Summerall. He's been winning, and he's shown he can win. He showed he can win with different kind of players. I think Eli Drinkwitz is a guy that you bring him to Auburn. I think he has the potential to do some really good things at Auburn, winning 9 or 10 games a year because he's doing it at Missouri. And I think if you can do it at Missouri, you can definitely do it at Auburn.
If he comes though, DJ Durkin is probably, I'm guessing, gone because he's more of a defensive.
Well, Eli he's an offensive guy. I think
All
DJ
right,
Durkin
so would Durkin stay, or would he bring his own defensive coordinator? Like, I mean, as you said, with Drinkowitz or some of these bigger names, how do you tell them, yeah, we want DJ Durkin as a defense coordinator when they're probably looking, going, well, we have our guys in mind, and this large check says I can determine who the hell I'm bringing in. So how do you?
Oh no, I don't. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
So how do you? So whoever you get, whether it's Summerall, whether it's Drinkowitz, how tough will it be to sell them on Durkin when they probably want, as you said, their own people?
No, I mean, I would go into it. I would like other than Lincoln Riley, but I'm not a big Lincoln Riley fan. So when you threw that at me, I'll just say you got to make him have DJ Durkin. I mean, you throw it out there. I mean, you don't make or tell any of these coaches they have to keep DJ Durkin on staff, but you could also throw it out there and say, hey, we like DJ here. The players like DJ Durkin, but you pick your own guys. I think that's how you got to go about it. So, I mean, I think that would be the best way of doing it, and especially with a guy like Eli Drinkwitz. And the thing about it, if you bring in somebody from the SEC, they've gone up against Auburn this year. They know what that defense is about with DJ. So, I mean, no, but you don't force anybody to bring DJ Durkin. If they don't want him, they want to bring an old defensive coordinator. That's fine. I mean, because he is old defensive coordinator Blake Baker is at LSU. He might want to go grab him because his last year at Missouri had one of the best defenses in the SEC. That's why Brian Kelly went and got him for LSU.
Final question, before I let you go. We haven't talked a nuclear option yet. It's sunken in everybody's mind in the SEC, but it's like, oh crap, this won't happen. Maybe happen. Maybe I'm not. No, probably won't happen. Let's say at the end of the year, the only coaches who are left standing are Mike Elko, Kalen DeBoer, Josh Heupel, and Clark Lee. And you notice I didn't mention Steve Sarkisian. Sarkisian leaves Texas. He's already floated. He says he hasn't, but we all know he floated something out to a source who floated to it. Another source and let NFL Diana's Rossini know, hey, I am available and interested in a head coaching job for the Tennessee Titans. If Texas opens up, how much is that just like, okay, we're in now Stupidville, where almost everybody will change hands. You're not even sure if Mike Elko will stay. He probably will, but I mean, how much is there a possibility of Auburn and LSU and Florida of like, oh crap, this might happen. Texas loses head coach. They get Lane Kiffin. All of a sudden, Penn State's grabbing everybody. We're left holding the bag. Like, how much are you looking at the SEC? Go, holy crap, this could be a chaotic coaching off season.
I'm going to throw something at you though. A guy I think could leave where he's at, and that also could throw some. I'm not convinced Dabo Swinney stays at Clemson. So just throw it out there. But if Texas opens up, that just changes everything. I mean, that completely throws everything out there. I don't honestly though, would they go after Lane? Is my question. Because Texas just seems like they are going to go after the big name. And could Texas convince Urban Meyer to come out of retirement? That would be interesting. But in your scenario, if Lane went to Texas, yeah, that just shakes everything up. Because with the Florida situation, it just feels like they're so set on Lane Kiffin, you don't really know who is their second option. Now, another name that is out there that could be interesting for these jobs too is Alex Golesh at South Florida.
Oh, look, we have chaos. I mean, we didn't even mention like Arkansas is looking for a head coach. South Carolina might be looking for a new head coach. They fired the offensive coordinator, but now everything's on the table here. I mean, as you said, how much for Auburn is this like the worst year to get a head coach? Because almost everybody seems to be looking to get a head coach. Hey, you had a bad season, we're firing you. Hey, 2 bad seasons, oh, we're definitely firing you. Oh, wait a minute, you had even just like a bad half season? Yeah, we still might fire you because we don't like you. Like, is this for Auburn like the worst time to get a head coach just because there's so many jobs open that you're almost looking going, oh crap, we might not be able to fill this for a while because everybody's waiting for the next shoe to drop. Who is going to be gone? Will Ryan Day even finally leave and just go, screw this, I'm done, I can't stand you people in Ohio State? Like, is this the most silliest coaching off season we're going to ever have? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, just in the SEC alone, you mentioned you got LSU, you got Florida, you got Auburn, you got Arkansas open. I mean, I would probably rank those if it was me: LSU, Florida, Auburn, and then Arkansas. But again, Penn State's open. I mean, that's a big time job. So I mean, there could be others. And if you had that scenario with Texas open, I mean, then you got to think if Lane leaves Ole Miss is now open. He's really, I think, changed the opinion of what Ole Miss is as a football program. So this is going to be a wild time. And for Auburn, before last week, I was thinking in my head, I was like, okay, what if they beat Kentucky like they're supposed to? Play a competitive game against, Vanderbilt, beat Mercer, and we'll see what happens in the Iron Bowl. You look at everything that's going on. Maybe he could go get another offense coordinator to run the offense, and he kind of just becomes CEO type. I could have seen Hugh Freeze coming back for another year at Auburn. But with what happened against Kentucky on Saturday night, and it's not that they lost to Kentucky, which that's bad enough. You lose at home. He's 2-9 in SEC home games at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Jordan-Hare Stadium has a mystique about it. You're not supposed to go into that place and beat Auburn. That's just the way it is with Jordan-Hare Stadium. I mean, Nick Saban even said it himself. That place is haunted. There been some wild stuff happen at Jordan-Hare Stadium. You only scored 3 points. Kentucky just gave up 56 at home to Tennessee. I'm not saying Auburn should have scored 56, but Auburn should have scored in the 20s. And the offense has just been so bad. That was just rock bottom. And Hugh Freeze looked like a desperate coach on Saturday night against Kentucky. Starting Ashton Daniels, that was the right move. Then in the fourth quarter, going to Jackson Arnold, and then going back to Ashton Daniels with 2 minutes left. He looked like a very desperate coach, and the program just had hit rock bottom with that loss. You could not bring Hugh Freeze back after that game, and you definitely could not bring him back next year with what happened. I think the Auburn fan base was getting ready to revolt. So, yeah, I if they beat Kentucky, I might could have convinced myself and had somebody else convince me. Yeah, maybe bring them back for one more year, but after that, you just can't do it. You just could not have Hugh Freeze back on the sideline at Auburn.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I give you he is one of the people with his ear against the ground and his finger on the pulse of all things Auburn football. I give you from the Auburn Wire, 96.9 The Legend. I give you Phillip Jordan. Phil, before we let you go, where else can fans check you out at? Where is the Twitter, Instagram, of course, the podcast? Where can fans hit you up at?
You can follow me on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days, at P Jordan Sports. I do have a YouTube channel where I put all my stuff, so you can look at just look at Phillip Jordan Sports on YouTube. I'm there as well. The Phillip Jordan Show podcast. Talk about all this stuff. Have my reaction to what happened with Auburn, and yeah, just check out my written work over at the Auburn Wire. Would really appreciate it.
Phillip Jordan, ladies and gentlemen, once again, always on a pleasure having you on the show. We come back. We got a lot more going on here. Only on it's Last Call. Last Call with the alcohol. Only on the Last Call podcast.com.